Maine's governor allowed an unconstitutional piece of legislation to become law without her signature. LD 1578, an act to adopt an interstate compact to elect the President of the United States by national popular vote, is not only foolish and unconstitutional, but the latest attempt to change the United States from a union of republics into a monolithic democracy. It seems, just as with the 16th and 17th Amendments in 1913, states are not only willing to give up their sovereignty, but to deprive their citizens of their rights in the pursuit of socialism. After all, I believe it was Vladimir Lenin who said, democracy is indispensable to socialism. So we'll discuss this law next on the Constitution Study.
Loving neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day we're everyday Americans. Oh, every day we're everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution, teach a rising generation to be free. You know, there's certain pieces of legislation I just find frustrating. Not because I disagree with them or I think they're bad policy, but they're based on ignorance, or more accurately, knowing something that is not true. That's what we have with this national popular vote. The whole idea of the national popular vote is a myth that keeps coming back time and time and time again. The solution to a lot of this is simple education. And I'll talk some more about that at the end of the episode. But for now, let's take a look at this piece of legislation and what it really might do to this country. I opened this episode with several statements you may have found bold, even unwarranted. Let me start by proving my point. When I say that LD 1578 is unconstitutional, I'm not talking about the apportionment of presidential electors. The legislation claims to join an interstate compact to elect the President of the United States by national popular vote. There's one serious problem with that. Maine, in fact, no state has the constitutional authority to enter into such a compact without the approval of Congress. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 reads, "No state shall, without the consent of Congress, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power." This whole national popular vote movement is just another attempt to get around the Constitution. In this case, the purpose appears to be to destroy the structure of the Union. Since Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Constitution prohibits Maine and the 16 other states who claim to have joined this compact from entering into such an agreement, this legislation is void, but that doesn't mean it won't be used to destroy the nation. Not only is this movement an attempt to convert the United States from a republic of republics, as required by Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, into a democracy, I see in the mantra of those who are supporting it the call for socialism that Vladimir Lenin warned us about. To replace the decision of the individual states with a collective voice driven by those who seek communism and control. In fact, this whole national popular vote is nothing but a lie. A lie repeated often enough becomes a truth. Although often attributed to Vladimir Lenin, the origins of this idea can be traced all the way back to an 1869 book entitled The Crown of Life, where Isa Blagden said, "If a lie is only printed often enough, it becomes a quasi-truth. And if such a truth is repeated often enough, it becomes an article of belief, a dogma, and men will die for it." There is a lie that has been repeated in the United States since before I was born. This lie has passed beyond quasi-truth, article of belief, and even dogma to be considered black-letter law. What lie could hold such sway over the entire citizenry of the United States? That the people elect the president. I've written and published episodes repeatedly about the myth of the national popular vote and the process by which we elect the president and vice president of the United States. Yet the lie persists. This lie has become such a part of our political lives that the ballots in 2/3 of our states repeat the lie every 4 years, claiming that the people are casting ballots for president, and that's blatantly and observably not true. See, until recently, most states pointed out on their ballot that the people were not voting for candidates for president and vice president, but for electors pledged to those candidates. With all the media and political focus on the non-existent national popular vote, states started pretending that the citizens were voting for candidates, even though those states were using the election to determine a slate of presidential electors, thus promoting the lie by committing fraud, a bait and switch, on their own citizens. I believe the lie not only exists but continues to grow for one central reason: our general ignorance of the Constitution of the United States and the constitutional role of the presidency. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 clearly states, "Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector." It's the states that appoint electors, and it's these electors who will eventually elect the president and vice president, not the people. While the process was established in Article 2, Section 1, it was modified with the 12th Amendment, which reads, "The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves." In fact, the idea that people would vote for president and vice president didn't even exist in the Constitution until 1964, when in January they ratified the 24th Amendment, which reads, "The right of the citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for Senate or representative in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of a failure to pay any poll tax or other tax." Yet, do just a quick web search and you'll find dozens of articles talking about the popular vote for president, going all the way back to the 1860 election. With Maine's recent decision to join in the lie, it once again goes stronger. The Maine legislature passed LD 1578, sending it to the governor for his signature. By neither signing nor returning the bill for 10 days under the Maine Constitution, the bill becomes law. Article 4, Part 3, Section 2 of the Maine Constitution states, "If the bill or resolution shall not be returned by the governor within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to the governor, it shall have the same force and effect as if the governor had signed it, unless the legislature by their adjournment prevents its return." Because Maine uses ranked choice voting, this makes the process of appointing their electors rather convoluted. From LD 1578. In a presidential election determined by ranked choice voting, when the National Popular Vote for President Act governs the appointment of presidential electors, the following procedures are used to determine the presidential vote count, except that, notwithstanding subsection 3, a statewide tie between candidates in the final round may not be resolved, and the provisions of subsection 4 regarding the modification of the ballot and count are permitted. Until the states illegally claim that the National Popular Vote Compact is in force, Maine will continue to appoint their electors with the ranked choice system they have in place. Since the NPV Compact does not have the consent of Congress, the states are not allowed to join the compact. And I'm pretty sure it's illegal for the states to follow an agreement they have not legally joined. However, once Maine claims the national popular vote does govern their elections, they still go through the ranked choice voting process. Why? I mean, after all, since the citizens of Maine are no longer choosing their presidential electors, why go through all the time, effort, and confusion of ranked choice voting for presidential electors when it will not impact the outcome of the election? According to Section 803 of LD 1578, as soon as possible after the canvass of the presidential count under Section 723A, subsection 7, is determined, the governor shall send a certificate of determination containing the names of the electors and the statewide number of votes for each presidential slate that received votes in the final round to the archivist of the United States under state seal. This final round vote is deemed to be the determination of the vote in the state for the purpose of Section 1304. So the governor is going to send the certificate of appointed electors to the archivist of the United States as required by another unconstitutional law, Title 3 U.S.C. Section 5, no later than the date that is 6 days before the time fixed for the meeting of the electors. The executive of each state shall issue a certificate of assessment and appointment of electors under and in pursuance of the laws of such state, providing for such appointment and ascertainment enacted prior to election day. However, when those electors vote, they're not doing so based on the decision of the citizens of Maine. Rather, they would be required by law to vote based on the winner of the fictitious national popular vote from LD 1578. Notwithstanding subsection 2, when the National Popular Vote for President Act governs the appointment of presidential electors, the presidential electors shall cast their ballots for the presidential slate designated as the National Popular Vote winner pursuant to section 1304. In other words, you can easily have a Republican slate of electors being forced to vote for a Democratic candidate or vice versa. Remember, the governor has already sent to the Archivist of the United States a certificate listing not only the slate of electors, but the number of votes for each presidential slate. This means Maine's fraud will be a matter of public record. Imagine you're one of those electors who are chosen by the people to represent one candidate, but are compelled by law to vote for someone else. What if you're a citizen of Maine, having gone through the process of ranked choice voting, only to have your vote ignored because your state lied to you about the national popular vote and decide to place the wishes of the rest of the country above those of their citizens, all in the pursuit of a lie? Would that not be a fraudulent election? This lie of the national popular vote has taken its latest victim, the citizens of Maine. Your legislature decided to subvert the expressed will of their citizens for the collective will of the nation, and your governor did nothing to stop it. Maine is a beautiful and unique state that I've had the pleasure of visiting several times. Maybe the people of Maine want to give up their uniqueness, their independence, and simply be joined to the collective. If so, well, that'd be a sad state of affairs indeed. The decision of Maine and of 16 other states that have joined this illegal compact shows not only the utter failure of our education system to teach the Constitution and basic civics, but the abandonment of our constitutional republic. See, it's more than just citizens choosing the president rather than the states. This move toward a national popular vote is another step in turning the president into a king. After all, when the president is a chief executive serving the states as parties to the compact that is the United States Constitution, his role is limited, defined, and controlled by the states. By placing the choice of president in the hands of the people, the states would no longer have any say in the role of president. Rather than the administrator envisioned by the framers and enshrined in the Constitution, we will have created a man of the people doing what he thinks the people want without limitation or restriction. But the presidency is not a position of the people. Rather, it is effectively held by a political party and their policies. As George Washington warned us in his farewell address, the alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetuated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. And sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purpose of his own elevation and the ruins of public liberty. So thank you, Maine, for not only selling your citizens' rights for a bowl of political pottage, but for helping sell the entire republic into the servitude of collectivism, socialism, and slavery. I hope you can live with the consequences of your decision. Sadly, I believe the rest of the nation will not only have to live with those consequences, but many may need to die to return us to the land of the free. Who would have thought what seemed to be a tiny throwaway article in a newspaper would catch such attention, at least from me? Who would think that a little state law could help turn the United States from a free republic into a communistic, socialistic, despotic democracy? Remember, we may think of democracy as good, but Vladimir Lenin said they were indispensable to socialism. This law that Maine has passed, and the ones that the 16 other states have as well, are moving us closer to socialism. Remember, East Germany was called the German Democratic Republic. I believe that North Korea is still called the Democratic Republic of North Korea. Making us more democratic doesn't make us more free. It makes us less free. It destroys the union. This legislation is another way to destroy the union, to take us from being 50 independent states into a single monolithic democracy. Just like the 17th Amendment did when it had popular election of senators rather than having the states appoint them themselves. The same way the 16th Amendment allowed the federal government to reach into your pocket each and every day to want to know what you make and what you spend it on. This legislation, I think, in future is going to be seen to be the destruction of the republic. It's not a small thing. And the sad part is it's really based on a lie. The president was never meant to be elected by the people because he was never meant to serve the people. Look at Article 2. His job is to serve the states. That's why so many things that he does requires the advice and consent of the Senate, which was set up to represent the states. This is not a tiny issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of those turning point moments. This piece of legislation, this National Popular Vote Compact, is a watershed event in our nation. Will we continue to be a republic of republics governed by a constitution, or will we become a democratic socialist monarchy governed by whoever can come up with the most bullies to enforce their will? That's what we're looking for. Now, I said at the beginning that I'd show you what you may want to do. The first thing you want to do is learn. Learn more about the Constitution. Go to constitutionstudy.com. There are plenty of ways to help. Check out the wizard. Just do a constitutionstudy.com/wizard. Answer a few questions, and the system will send you emails recommending things you may do. Many of them, by the way, are free. So you can take the wizard for free. You might find some things that will help you understand the Constitution better. I've written before about how we elect a president and the role of the president. You can find that on the website. If you find this article, I've got links in the article to the other articles I've written. If we're going to avoid this despotic future that is being set up for us, it's going to take a little bit of knowledge. And it's going to take some bravery. We cannot be the land of the free if we're not the home of the brave, which means standing up against this illegal, unconstitutional act and against those that wish to turn us from a union of states into a monolithic democracy. I know they make it sound like a great idea until you see how they actually work. It's only our future. It's only the land that you will leave to your children. Don't you think it's worth a little bit of time and effort? Hopefully, it'll be worth you coming back and joining us here next time for the Constitution Study.
Love your neighbors and have a few good friends.